السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. Today is the 2nd of Rajab. So of course next month is Sha'ban and then after that is Ramadan. So again, Ramadan around the corner already. So these are the months that we should prepare ourselves for Ramadan. Rajab is also known as the month of Allah. It is amongst the 4 sacred months. It's the only one that is separate from the other 3, which of course are Zil Qa'dah, Zil Hajj, and Muharram. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decorated this month with the comings and goings of those that He loves, including the coming of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh, who was born on the 13th of this month. And we've talked about his birth before, so I'm not going to go over that again. Last few weeks we've been talking about Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, and then we spoke about Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh, and last week I started talking about the two as a combination. And inshallah I'll kind of go over some things very quickly today and kind of wrap it up, or try to wrap it up as best I can for the moment. So as we know, as we were talking about last week, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he passed, and then Abu Bakr, he comes and he settles the companions. He had different emotions, different reactions, and Abu Bakr is the one who came and settled everyone. And later that day, and this shows us the interaction between the two of them, when time for Salat comes, the Iqamah is made, but no one is going forward to lead the Salat. Abu Bakr is in the first row. And when no one moves forward and people are kind of motioning him to go forward and lead the Salat, he announces from where he is, he says that I led the 17 Salat, at the order of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now whoever is the best should lead the Salat. The ishara, or what he was hinting at, was someone standing in the 3rd row. So the one who was in the 3rd row, I forgot to turn it off. So the one who was in the 3rd row was Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh. So Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh, he comes forward from there and places his hands on the shoulders of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and nudges him forward, saying that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam placed you forward, then who can pull you back? And so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, again, he leads the Salat. And as we know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passed on Monday, but he was not buried until Wednesday. So several questions came up. One question, of course, the first question was, where should he be buried? And Abu Bakr radiallahu is the one who alleviated that difficulty by saying that Rasulullah said that the prophets are buried where they pass. And so he passed in the house of Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu, and that is where he is to be buried. Second question that comes up is about a ghusl. Rasulullah is pure. Every aspect of him is pure. So how do you do ghusl? Should you do ghusl? Because ghusl is purification. So all of them in consensus said that we will do ghusl to make it sunnah for the ummah. But we will not remove his clothing. So the ghusl is done through his clothes. The clothing remains. Ali is the one who is bathing him. And as Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh is bathing him, he, when the water collects in the eye sockets, he will drink that water. And so then, the other question that comes up is Salatul Janazah. Because in Salatul Janazah for the adults, Salatul Janazah for an infant is different than Salatul Janazah for the adults. For the infant, male or female, the dua that is made roughly means that Allah make this child a treasure and a fard, someone who goes forward and prepares things for us. Make them an intercessor for us. Whereas for the adults, the dua is that Allah forgive those who are alive and those who have passed, those who are present and those who are absent, those who are big, small, and those who are big, and those who are male and those who are female. So you have dua for forgiveness. How can you ask for forgiveness for the one who is already ma'soom? And not just ma'soom, but Sayyidul Ma'soomin. He is the master of all of those who are innocent. To ask for forgiveness for such a person is a sin in itself. Because you're insinuating that he sinned. Rasulullah ﷺ, there is no sin. So again, this question comes up. How can we make Salatul Janazah on him? So if you read the books of Hadith, there is a chapter of Salatul Janazah for Rasulullah ﷺ. But if you look at how it's performed, it's not Salatul Janazah. What was decided was that because the hujra or the room was small, 10 people will come in, they will recite salawat on Rasulullah ﷺ, and then they will leave. And then the next 10 will come. So Ali is standing inside of the room, teaching them what to say. They stand, they come in, they stand before Rasulullah ﷺ, send blessings and peace upon him, and then they go. And then the next 10 come. And this process kept going. On the day of Wednesday, he will be buried late that day. So on that day, when this process is in place, everyone's taking their turns, the hypocrites spread a rumor that Umar has been selected as the Khalifa. And the reason they chose that name was because Umar, the Ansar, and the people of Medina Munawwara, they had some feelings towards Umar, because he had married one of the Ansar women, it didn't work out, and he divorced her. So they spread this rumor that Umar has been selected the Khalifa, in order to create an issue amongst the Muslims. And so, as the rumor is spreading, this man, he comes, and Uthman was outside amongst the people. And he comes and he tells Uthman that this, that word has spread that this is going on. And there is a meeting taking place of the Ansar, at a certain location. He comes, Uthman radiallahu anhu, he comes and he tells Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and Umar radiallahu anhu, who are standing at the door, that this is what's going on. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu goes inside and tells Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh what's going on. Ali radiallahu anhu tells Abu Bakr and Umar, you two go and deal with the situation. Because he's involved, he's tied up here. He says, you two go and deal with the situation. So Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu, they head out. As they're leaving, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu is coming in. And so they tell him on the way that, look, this is what's going on. We're going to go deal with this situation. So they go. When they arrive at the meeting, Sa'ad bin Ubadah, who was the head of the clan of Khazraj, or the tribe of Khazraj amongst the Ansar, which was the larger tribe, which was the tribe that Rasulullah is also related to from his great-grandmother's side. And, of course, discussions are going on, who's going to be the Khalifa, and, some people are nominating some people from the Ansar. Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he says, look, Rasulullah said that the leaders will be from Quraysh. Ansar are not from Quraysh. And they all acknowledged this. So no one had an issue with this. So Abu Bakr, after they acknowledged this, he takes the hand of Abu Umar and Abu Ubaidah, and he says, choose amongst these two. And both of them take the hand of Abu Bakr and say, we choose you. And then everybody else who's there come and give allegiance to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So this is how he becomes the Khalifa. So everybody there except for Sa'ad bin Ubadah radiallahu anhu give allegiance to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. When they return, as they return, Ali radiallahu anhu is coming out from the grave of Rasulullah after having placed him in the grave, and then they complete the burial. So this is one issue, they say, they did this on their own. Well, Ali is the one who sent them to take care of the issue. Of course, immediately after the passing of Rasulullah, you have, with the exception of the people of Hijaz, basically all of Arabia apostating. All of Najd, to the extent that you have multiple people claiming to be prophets from Najd. The most famous, of course, Musaylima. Najd is, of course, Eastern Arabia, which includes the area around Riyadh. Riyadh is the center of modern day of Najd, or modern day Riyadh is the center of Najd. So all of them apostated. The only places that did not apostate were Medina, Makkah, and Taif. Otherwise, mass apostation everywhere. Then you have these clans coming, tribes coming. One tribe comes, or a group of tribes come, and they come to Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, and they say to him, look, our agreement was with Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now that he is dead, our agreement is dead with him. So we don't want to give zakat. So we want a new agreement in which we don't have to pay zakat. You have other clans coming, threatening to attack Medina. So, And the other thing that's happened before this is that Rasulullah had prepared an army to go and deal with the threat of the Byzantines, of the Romans. That army has already left. So most of the fighting men are gone. So when these people are coming to Abu Bakr, rather than saying, look, either change our agreement or fight, he says, I'm not changing the agreement. The agreement is with the Rasulullah ﷺ, and the Rasulullah ﷺ is Rasulullah. The kalma is it that that there's no one worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad ﷺ was the messenger of Allah. It is Muhammadur Rasulullah. He is the messenger of Allah. The agreement stands. You have other companions coming to Abu Bakr saying, look, we don't have anyone to fight. Most of the fighting men are gone. So just agree with them for the time being and we'll deal with them later. Abu Bakr says no. Now, this is a question of the deen, of the religion that Rasulullah brought. This is a question of the honor of Rasulullah. We are not changing anything. And irregardless of if there's no one to fight, I will fight. Then others said, look, these people, how can we fight against Muslims? They have not denied the kalma. They're just denying the zakat. As I mentioned before, one of the characteristics of Sayyidina Ali Karamallah is that he is the alleviator of difficulties. The order for jihad comes. How can Rahmatul Alameen, the mercy to all of creation, pick up the sword? Who alleviated that difficulty? Ali radiallahu anhu. Zulfiqar is actually the sword of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he gave into the hand of Ali. Now difficulty comes for Abu Bakr. No one is willing to back him. No one is willing to support him. And this is when Ali comes into the picture. And so that question of how do we fight against these people who are still Muslim? They say the kalma. And he said no. And he recites verses from Surah Fussilat, Surah number 41. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in verse number 6 or 7, where he says more or less that those who do not pay the zakat or who refuse to pay zakat, they are from the disbelievers. So there's no question, these are people refusing to pay zakat. Or they are willing to pay zakat, but they want to pay less zakat. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already ordained the amount. So again, when Ali makes this statement and clarifies the situation, now people start coming and backing Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. The Ridda Wars, which were the wars that took place against all of these tribes that apostated. Ali did not fight in those wars. And so now also the hypocrites find this as means to say, oh, see, there's an issue between them. Ali had not given him official bay'ah to Abu Bakr, allegiance to Abu Bakr, officially. He didn't need to. Things were understood. He is Ahlul Bayt. He doesn't need to give allegiance. He is going to support whoever supports Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, again, at the end of these 6 months, we have the Battle of Yamama, which is against Musaylima. This takes place, Yamama, or the battle itself, took place slightly north of modern-day Riyadh, actually a suburb of modern-day Riyadh. And so Musaylima, of course, is, of course, for this battle, the thing that was told to all of the armies before was that you go into an area, you wait for the adhan. If you hear the adhan, then you do not attack, because you consider the people believers. However, the situation for Musaylima was different, because they still made the adhan, even though he declared himself prophet. He never denied the prophethood of Rasulullah. He said, he is the prophet of Hijaz, I am the prophet of Najd, and he has sanctioned my prophethood. That's what he used to say. And so now if you go and fight, the thing is, they continue to make salat towards our Qibla. The only thing was that he said that Fajr and Isha are difficult for you, so those aren't an obligation for you. He continued to make the adhan like we make the adhan. He continued to make the iqamah like we make the iqamah. Didn't change any of it. So in their adhan, you still had Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. So now the question is, how do you tell who is who? Because before you simply waited for the adhan. If they didn't make the adhan, you know they're not making salat. But now how do you know? So the question comes up, how do we know who is who? And so for this is when Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he gives the ruling, which all of the companions, there's 13,000 companions in this army, and the general of the army is Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu. All of them accept this and implement this. He said that the code word for this battle, because how you distinguish friend from foe, the code word for this battle will be Ya Muhammada sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the code word is Ya Muhammada for the Battle of Yamama. And, of course, the battle takes place. And this essentially puts an end to all of the apostates when Musaylima is defeated. In the meantime, in Medina Munawwara, you have the passing of the daughter of Rasulullah. But before you have her passing, you have the issue with Fidaq. So for those who don't know, Fidaq was a town close to Khaybar. Khaybar, was the large fortress city of the Jews that was conquered by the Muslims after Sulh Hudaybiyah. When Khaybar is conquered, the people of Fidaq, this was also a Jewish city, they see, Khaybar falling, and they know that if they put up resistance, they too will fall, so they come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say, look, we're willing to surrender without fighting, so long as we are given the same terms as you have given to the people of Khaybar. And he said, fine. So you have two forms of spoils of war in Islam. You have the anfal, which is the spoils of war, which you acquire through fighting. And in that, the distribution is 80% for the soldiers, and difference, whether they're cavalry or on foot, or there's, I won't go into the details there. And 20% for Allah and His Messenger. In a situation where an army surrenders without fighting, that is known as fay. That is 100% for Allah and His Messenger. So you have certain properties that are the properties of Rasulullah. However, he uses these properties for the good of the believers. With the exception of Fidaq, which he used to run the household. the revenue from Fidq was used to run the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes, the Fatima salamullah alayha, she comes to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and she asks for Fidq. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that we, the prophets, do not leave any inheritance. Whatever we leave is waqf. It is for the believers. It is for the Muslim ummah. It is waqf. And she doesn't say anything after that, and she goes home. The interesting thing is that people, they take these narrations and they say, oh, she was so upset that she didn't say anything. She didn't talk to him anymore. This is how they interpret this. Many people. And so she was upset until she died. Again, as we spoke about last week, when you look at the actions of somebody, you have to look at the character of the person to understand why they're doing what they're doing. We've talked about the character of Abu Bakr. He is amongst the two companions for whom Rasulullah was not willing to hear anything against them. People would come and complain, and he would rebuke the people that were complaining. You had an issue between Abu Bakr and Umar where words were exchanged, and when Umar approached Rasulullah, Rasulullah started rebuking him to such an extent that Abu Bakr felt sorry for Umar and saying, "Ya Rasulullah, it was my fault." And Rasulullah says, "No. This is the maqam of Abu Bakr." Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha, she is the one for whom Rasulullah says, "Bidatu minni." She is part of me. Whatever hurts her hurts me. Whatever pleases her pleases me. She is the one. The verse, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. That even when they themselves are in need, they feed the poor, they feed the beggar, the orphans, the captives. And then the next verse where they don't even expect anything from you, not even a thank you. Why was this revealed? What is going on in the house of Ali that this verse is revealed? There's nothing to eat. He goes and he works all day. He brings back a few loaves of bread. A few bread. They've been fasting all day. And when they're about to break the fast, knock on the door. Beggar. They give them all the bread. No one complains. Next day, same thing. Except this time it's an orphan. They give them all the bread. Same thing. Next day. This time it's a captive. And then Jibreel alayhi comes to Rasulullah and says, "Ya Rasulullah, do something in the house of your daughter. We, the angels, can't stand this. She never complained. Why is she going to be worried about some property? So why does she go?" The more interesting thing also, several interesting aspects of how she goes. She is not a woman that used to go outside, period. Unless it was dark. All the chores outside she would do at night. Even if she needed to relieve herself, she wouldn't go until it was dark. Why is she going to come in the middle of the day to come to Abu Bakr? And she brings with her the uncle of Rasulullah, Abbas. Islamically, from the standpoint of the rulings of inheritance, Abbas was not to inherit anything. So again, if she had wanted something, she would have taken somebody who was also one of the inheritors, such as her sons or Sayyidina Ali. She didn't take them. She took her granduncle. She's not expecting anything. She didn't go to get anything. Why is she asking him then? Because she knows Abu Bakr has done this without any explanation. And people will criticize him for doing it. So she forces him to explain why he's done what he's done. So now there's no blame on him, because she is truly the daughter of her father. And so she is going to defend the honor of Abu Bakr in place of her father. Why doesn't she say anything to him again afterwards? Because she is Fatima Salamullah alayha. She's not in the habit of talking to men that are not mahram. When she was asked about the best salat of a woman, what did she say? For the woman to make it in the innermost room of the house with the door closed. When she passed, she gave herself ghusl, and then she shrouded herself, and she lay down, and Allah took her soul. She had told her husband, when I pass, bury me at night so no one can see me. She is the leader of the women of Jannah. And the women of Jannah include the mothers of prophets, the daughters of prophets, the wives of prophets. She is the leader of them all. Time's up. So inshallah, later we've talked about this before, we'll talk about this again, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give us the true love of himself and the true love of his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love. May he give strength and victory to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine and wherever the Muslims are being oppressed, and give them victory over their oppressors. Those who have not made sunnah, go and make sunnah.